Christmas 2021 just turned to be a huge day for movie lovers everywhere because the announcement has been made that this will be the release date for two of the biggest Indian films that everyone is waiting for: Pushpa The Rise or Pushpa Part 1 and Laal Singh Chaddha. Pushpa stars the one and only Allu Arjun. Laal Singh Chaddha stars Amir Khan. The last time this kind of a big clash happened on Christmas was KGF Part 1 and 0. I have made a video on it. It is one of my most viewed videos. So definitely go and check it out. And in that video, I said that KGF Part 1 might do better and the rest is history. KGF is now in cult legendary status in Indian cinema with Part 2 breaking all records on the trailer, and Zero, of course, was one of the last nails in the coffin that nobody expected for Shah Rukh Khan back then. It really bombed and tanked at the box office. KGF Part 1 at the time of its release, and I'm explaining this to then get into the analysis of Pushpa versus Laal Singh Chaddha. KGF Part 1 at the time before it released, when this news came out, was a film from the Kannada film industry, which was not that well known to the rest of North India at that time. It was by a director, Prashant Neel, who was also not that well known at that time across North India or the rest of India. Yash, rocking star Yash, before the release, before the actual film did well, was not as big of a superstar on the Hindi dubbed version, YouTube dubbed versions, things like that in North India. Yes, he had a couple films that definitely did well in the Hindi dubbed versions, but he was nearly not as big as many of the other South Indian actors from various film industries. Shah Rukh Khan was teaming up with Anand L. Rai, Katrina Kaif, Anushka Sharma, big budget movie with some sci-fi elements. He's playing a Bona in it. All those things were there. And KGF was an out-and-out action slasher versus typical masala film versus a classy Shah Rukh Khan entertainer. And the rest is history. And we all know what happened. And now let's talk about why I gave you that background. Pushpa is a film coming from the Telugu film industry. This is the film industry that gave us Bahubali Part 1 and 2, is going to give us RRR. This is the industry of the greatest superstars of South India that have done and continue to do extremely well in North India in their Hindi dubbed versions, in their YouTube dubbed versions, etc. They get millions, 200 million, 300 million views, and is the most viewed industry, I would say, or the most popular industry since my childhood on television everywhere in North India. This is the industry. The star of the movie is Allu Arjun, who is number one in this zone of Hindi dubbed YouTube movies, etc. No other star, even in Telugu film industry, has such consistency with the films doing well up north. And this is his first entry in a pan-India film releasing directly in Hindi, which the fans have been waiting for in North India for years now. Allu Arjun is also the only star to have a biggest collection in the Telugu film industry after the Bahubali franchise for Ala Vaikunthapuramulo. So even down there, he has broken some kick-ass records to get to that stature. The director of this film also made some very big and entertaining movies, the director Sukumar, and one of them is Rangasthalam, which is recent with Ram Charan a few years ago, and that was out and out a success. It got famous everywhere, and if some of you have not watched it, definitely check it out to see the caliber of this director and his storytelling abilities to entertain the audiences in a grand way, in a gripping way. If you compare what happened to KGF based on the factors I just said, it was not that known, yet it did well. And you compare this Allu Arjun film, the biggest ever star from the Telugu industry, one of the biggest budget movies, best director possible. It is way ahead of its own curve for a pan-India release when you think about it in terms of KGF Part 1. The story, masala entertainers set in the forest around red sandalwood smuggling, hero, villain, etc. outstanding, incredible, very entertaining type movie. It's also a part one, so people are going to be curious to see what is the build up, what is this part one, the rise that will lead to a part two, similar like KGF, similar like Bahubali that had part ones and legendary part twos. This is setting itself up for that part two. So a lot is going on for Pushpa to do well at the box office. Last but not the least, Pushpa also stars Fahad Fasil, one of the most successful actors in the past few years because of his direct OTT releases and the exposure of the Malayalam film industry in other industries and up north. He has delivered hit after hit after hit, performance after performance. His name is so famous and synonymous with good content, good films, etc., that he himself would probably not have signed a film if it didn't fit his creative mentality and image. So you can expect some great content as well as some Fahad Fasil following. Allu Arjun fans are existing in very high records compared to rocking star Yash at that time in Tamil Nadu as well as Kerala. Tamil Nadu is the Tamil film industry, Kerala is the Malayalam film industry where Fahad Fasil etc. are from. So there's already a fan base that's much larger than rocking star Yash at that time in the south. So you can imagine the craze, the anticipation, the popcorn entertainment value that this particular return to cinema type event film is going to bring in the audiences all across India and the world for Pushpa. Now let's talk about Laal Singh Chaddha. Of course, the one and only Amir Khan. Everybody all over the country waits for his films. This is a remake of Forrest Gump, which was a Tom Hanks film back in the early 90s. Again, it's probably going to be a very different film than Forrest Gump. It's going to be adjusted for India and the Indian setting. He's playing a Punjabi or a Sardar in this film. There are rumors that, I think the actress is finalized, Kareena Kapoor, but there are rumors that Shah Rukh Khan and Salman Khan might do cameos in this film. Not sure if it's confirmed. So it has its own sort of thing going on. It's definitely going to be a drama with some comedy like Three Idiots and PK. It's going to have a sort of story that's going on centered around Laal Singh Chaddha and the various things that he does in life, drama, entertainment, all of that. Amir Khan is big, huge. People just go and watch his movie like no one else in the Bollywood or Hindi film industry. So stakes are very high for Pushpa as well, especially if many of these rumors that I mentioned come true, that there are other Khans, other stars in the movie that may do cameos. December release, Christmas release, people in North India, of course the first choice might be to watch an Amir Khan film with your family as opposed to something more action oriented or stuff like that. However, this is why I explained a lot around Zero and KGF. No matter who the star is, how big it is, what kind of a film it is, we know that Pushpa is not going to be nearly as violent as KGF Part 1. And we know that even though it had a family setting, Zero did not do that well. Now, will the content be much better in Laal Singh Chaddha? Definitely. But two films coming together at the same time, the sort of all India, pan-India craze that is generated is going to be, according to me, much more for Pushpa Part 1, leading up to Part 2, considering all other South Indian states and other states as well. So I'm going with the fact that Pushpa might do better, but I love all films and I'm going to watch all of them. So I hope that every film that starts releasing, not only this clash, every film that starts releasing does tremendously well, because we are here to be entertained. We want all films to be good films. We want all films to entertain us. Nobody likes a disappointment. Nobody enjoyed feeling bad and bored in Zero. Nobody enjoyed feeling disappointed in Zero. We all wanted it to work, but it didn't. So hoping for the best from everyone, from all teams. Let me know what your thoughts and comments are on this clash. Let me know what you think is going to be the real winner. Who is going to be the real winner in this scenario? Drop your comments below. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and keep watching for much, much more.